I graduated from puppy training, and so instead of my dog, whose name is Becky, she came with that name, instead of her thinking that her first name was No, there's some positive reinforcement. So it's more like heal, yes, heal, yes, heal, yes. And so sometimes our mind is like that too. We get to say yes, and to be peaceful and at ease, and to experience those joy-filled moments and those grace-filled moments throughout the day. And as I experience this loving kindness, I can do that individually and slow down. May I be filled with loving kindness. And that might be worth a whole week. And may I be filled with loving kindness. And perhaps the next week throughout these holidays, may you be filled with loving kindness. And to just slow down a little bit during the holiday hustle and bustle, may you be filled with loving kindness. And then may we be filled, take the next week after that, may we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. And to then focus on our well-being and to take time daily to have that sense of inner peace and experience that peace that, yes, I'm thankful that I am this person who walks into a room and has it be transformed. Whether that's with family, whether that's on the freeway, whether that's on the workplace, whether that's on an airplane and people have brought too much luggage. And I'm trying to stuff the luggage with the wheels out so that you can get it up there. And may I be filled with loving kindness. And may the whole airplane be filled with loving kindness. You've been there, right? So it could be that in our rush hour traffic, it could be that I call upon one of my mentors. His name was Dr. Al. And Dr. Al and I were experiencing sitting at this table, and it had a library, much like our new consciousness lending library that we have. We have over 1,000 books, thanks to another set of elves. And we would sit in this room with a big table, and I would have to remember that I was filled with loving kindness, because it was like this transition zone. It was a time where there was a reformulating. We were noticing what was beautiful and what was filled with loving kindness, and what may not have been. There may have been some contentious moments. There may have been that conditional-based, circumstance-based thinking based on whatever that past experiences were, those past experiences. And I would look over to Dr. Al, and he would have this placid look on his face. It was very serene. It was very tranquil. And I said to him, "What's going on in there?" And he said, "I'm just knowing the truth about you. I'm just knowing the truth." And isn't that what we do here? We take that into our hearts and we are filled with loving kindness. And then we say, may you be filled with loving kindness. And then may we be filled. And he said, I'm just knowing the truth about you. And I'm called to be peaceful. I can be called home to that peaceful place no matter what's going on. I can just look around the room and to know that Dr. Al's gaze was there, and it was this gaze of peacefulness. It was this gaze of joy, and his peace became my peace. His knowingness became my knowingness and spilled over in my experience. And how do we know this truth? Well, we have that undistractable attention that we have in meditation. We have that loving kindness that we can slow down and take a week for that self to come to fruition even more fully. We can take that next week and know that as we have those affirmative prayers in our lives, as we do visioning, as we have all these spiritual practices, that we can know that our thoughts, our every thought, is a prayer. And it can be filled with harmony. It can be filled with something new and fresh and recharging and energizing and that which is invigorating. And some of our practices during this month, we've asked ourselves to write one thank you note, one a day, sort of like a daily vitamin. Have that supplemental in our consciousness. Have that one thought, that one thank you note a day. Because then that becomes the lens through which we look. We've also talked about having some gratitude lists, just to recap. And then we've also talked about being faithful and grateful. We've also talked about moving beyond just whatever change or whatever transition zone that we might be in individually. We might look at having progress than just being over here in just the change. We might look at having that action of spirit be in progress in our lives. And what I know in this season of gratitude, which we're wrapping up this season of gratitude in November, and then moving into a season of stillness and silence in December, because don't we all need a little bit of that during the holidays? A little bit of centering and a little bit just coming back to being filled with love and kindness and peace. What I know is that wherever there is appreciation, there is duplication. Whatever I'm appreciating multiplies. Yeah. And so we're counting our blessings. We're knowing that there's bountiful blessings in this season of gratitude, and this is moving into this sweet spot of our life in stillness and bringing that place where we've acknowledged that, yes, I'm thankful that I'm alive. Yes, oh, yes, like the heel, like the dog. Yes, I'm thankful I'm alive. Yes, I'm thankful I'm well. Yes, I'm thankful I'm rich. Yes, I'm thankful I'm peaceful. And to know that there is that place, which is a place where we can recharge during the holidays. And what I know is that we can support ourselves in our own peacefulness, no matter what's going on. And there's been some demonstrations of peace this week. And to know that there's this realization that we can move beyond whatever limitations that have been in our culture in the past. To know that there's been some peaceful demonstrations and that supporting the rights of black people not to be shot dead by police. And that's been in our consciousness. It's been in the CNN news, the cynical news. I think CNN stands for Cynical News Network sometimes. You know? So to bring our heart back and to know that there was this boy who was holding a sign that said free hugs. And this was in Oregon at one of the peace demonstrations. Free hugs. He just had a sign. And Sergeant Barnum mentioned, he just motioned for him to come over. And he says, do I get one of those? I'll share one of those. And the moment following this, his eyes just teared up and it just welled with that peace. And everyone in the crowd, all of those rising emotions subsided. And to know that we can do that too. We can be in that place where we're called home to be peaceful. Called home to have loving kindness in our hearts. Called home once again to notice someone like Dr. Al across the table who just has that peaceful gaze that, yes, he knows it for us, and then we begin to know that for ourselves. I can be called home right now and to know that there is that progress that's in our hearts and to find that this is the peace and this is the gift that I bring to the world. Peace is the gift that I bring to the world. And I know we have a lot of things that tug at us throughout the day. I know that there is that place where I can pay soulful attention, to pay attention to what really matters. I did a ceremony it was a celebration of life for someone who had lost a 5-year-old. And what I noticed was that there were parents in the room, and you could tell the difference of the parents who were in the room because the kids were all crawling over all the chairs and dropping toys and running in the back aisles. And that the parents who were there, because there were a lot of people who had those same age groups in elementary school, those parents they were not distracted by the running around, and they were able to focus on that soulful message that was there for them to take home during that time of loss and grief and sadness and sorrow. And we too can have that undistractable attention, much like a parent who nurtures that peaceful awareness, who nurtures that and is not distracted by things that are running in the aisles or by us not being distracted in rush hour and by us not being distracted in whatever that thing that is pushing, to not be pushed by something that's external, but to be pulled by something that's internal. Much like Dr. Al, one of my mentors. Dr. Al took that, whatever external situation was going on, and brought it internal, where he could be at peace and filled with loving kindness. So I could tell who the parents were in the room. I could tell that the parents just took in that message of peacefulness during that time of loss, during that time of grief. And they paid soulful attention, no matter what that was. Even Bruce Lipton, who's a cellular biologist, he talks about having soulful attention. Soulful attention. That as we stay conscious, anyone ever been on a honeymoon? Do you know why honeymoons don't last? Bruce Lipton says, I see some people smiling, been there, huh? Yeah, got the t-shirt, been there, got the t-shirt. 95% of what our mind does, much like that puppy training, it has that subconscious, like you put in a tape in, you put in that record, and it just plays. That's our subconscious mind. But the honeymoon can last, says Bruce Lipton. The honeymoon can last as we pay attention and as we stay conscious. Because when we stay conscious, we make that honeymoon experience last. And it's not that we have to create it, but we realize by placing our attention on it and noticing that, much like our loving kindness meditation can be, the first week being for ourselves, the second week being for someone else, our beloved, the third week being loving kindness for many people. So our subconscious minds kick in, perhaps 95% of the time. And here in this community, we're a bit more awakened and enlightened and moving on this journey together where we are conscious and we begin to notice. We have these spiritual practices where our subconscious programs then come to light, and then we stay conscious, and that we begin to identify more with the divine. We identify with that which we're conscious of. And we begin to bring that and be called home. I am called home to be peaceful. Sometimes throughout the day I'll set my cell phone. Used to be a little one of those alarm clocks that went tick, tick, tick and had a little battery and folded up. But now it's my cell phone. And so every couple hours it calls me home. I have a little, if you ever notice me and I'm kind of smiling throughout the day, it might be that I'm being called home by whatever that vibration, that reminder, that divine reminder is. So on my cell phone, every couple hours, I'm reminded of that. And we can remind ourselves and be fulfilled and be peaceful. E.B. White says that most people think of peace as a state of nothing bad happening, nothing much happening, like we're just still and nothing's happening. Yet peace, as it is able to overtake and be the majority of our experience, not that 5%, but become more of that 95%, that yet it's peace that can overtake us with these gifts of serenity and tranquility. And it will have to be that state of something good that's happening. Not just the absence of something, but it's that presence and that power. It's something good is happening. So when we stay conscious, we can have that honeymoon even more % of the time. We can have it be an everyday experience, so says Bruce Lipton. So years later, I returned the favor to Dr. Al. He was having kind of a gnarly, we were again in that conference room that had a library much like this. A lot going on, a lot of transition, a lot of pain and stuff was going on for himself and for people. It was gnarly, and it's one of those things where you kind of forget all you know, and I had a chance to return the favor. And he was reciting details of this very gnarly thing and reciting and the story, and as I listened, I began to say in my heart, may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. And may you be happy. So I was saying that internally. I took whatever act was going on outside, and I took that inside and internalized the truth. And he looked at me across the table and he said, "What's going on in there?" And I said, "I'm just knowing the truth. I'm knowing the truth about you. I'm knowing the truth about everyone here. I'm knowing the truth about that situation, and I'm called home to be peaceful." There's a good acronym which allows us to pay attention. It reminds us to be called home to be peaceful. And it reminds us to go within. It reminds us to go within for that transformation. And Ayanla Van Zant reminds us to take a situation, whatever that situation is. She reminds us to pay attention and to move inward in the now. And so she uses an acronym to transform and to transmute. And I want you to watch me closely, because around here sometimes I'll turn away from the condition, which is what Dr. Ernest Holmes, who is the founder for spiritual living, it's a founder of the Science of Mind, it's a guide for spiritual living. He invited us to turn away from whatever that condition is and to know the truth. To look in that direction, to internalize that which is peaceful and sets us free, and to stay conscious in that honeymoon, toward that honeymoon in our life. That percentage of that honeymoon that's possible. And Ayanla Van Zant moves us from whatever that grief and sorrow and sadness and disappointment and resentment or anger or fear, to not stay stuck in that, but to move from what might be like a rut, which might have mud. And I live on a dirt road, and I've driven through some ruts. And I know that as we tell our story, we can move that story in the direction of a river rather than a rut. And to move whatever that is from grief into enthusiasm, from grief into peace, from grief into joy, from grief into love, and to flow more like a river. And do you ever know it's like the story of being in a rut, or we can move it in the direction of being in a flowing river. Do you know Bobo? It's like if we tell a story about Bobo. And Bobo, he came into my life, and Bobo, it was just so awful, and it was terrible, it was awful, it was horrible. Or we can say, Bobo came into my life. Bobo came into my life. And I decided never to do that again. That would be the river, right? And we all may have Bobos that we need to say, may you be filled with loving kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness in the presence of Bobo. And be grateful for every step along the way. To really be grateful and to realize, what am I grateful for? Well, yeah, I am grateful for Bobo because I didn't stay there in the rut. I moved there in the direction of the river. I paid attention so I could move forward. I got to pay attention and move inward in the now. So I know that we can move inward in the now and take that outward in our experience, and that we can be called home to be peaceful. We can be called home to be joy-filled during this season, no matter what. And to know that we are filled with loving kindness, and that as we slow down and take that into our experience, we can move into that and connect to the divine, to reconnect into the divine, and to know that we may be called home to be peaceful and at ease and have well-being. And it's Martin Luther King Jr. who said that one day we must come to see peace, to see that peace is not merely a distant good. One day we must come to see that peace is not merely it's nothing distant. It's nothing when we know our oneness. It's not separate from us. We're connected at all times in the oneness and in the wholeness. But it's a means, peace is a means by which we arrive at our good. And we know that that goodness is there, and we find that to practice going home to that peace, I'm called home. To practice going home to that peace so that we too are a means. We are a means for peace, and it's expressed in our world. That is the gift for the world. And we find the peace so that we may bring that to our world. So I'd like to just know that there is loving kindness in this moment as we turn within, and seeing and knowing that there is this loving kindness which is in our hearts at all times. And just knowing that we're a part of something larger, something that is the divine nature which is expressing. It is the divine nature which is the essence of life, and there is the one life of honoring all, and knowing that there is the presence which is honored and cherished, and being in this peaceful place of harmony, of the rhythm of life, of being in the flow of this river, and being in the know in this very moment of the now. Being filled in this connection with Spirit, in this unified field of loving kindness, the true essence of the divine. And I know that I'm connected to the divine at all times, and that there is this presence and power and this unconditional love, this love essence which extends from my heart, knowing that there is this soulful place of being well. It is in well-being. It is that which is in wellness and aliveness and wholeness, in true balance. And bringing that forward into all the activities, bringing that forward into all conversations, and knowing that there is the universe which is supportive. It is friendly. It is divine. And knowing that all is well. Trusting and knowing that there is this loving kindness which is naturally extended. It is the creativity and this creative expression that just goes forth and fills this beautiful life. And I'm grateful for this experience of loving kindness and wellness, being in this well-being and knowing that truth for others as well. And I know that this is the true essence of the divine, which just shares of itself freely and fully. And I release this word, knowing it is powerful, it is present, it is ever near and right here. And so be it, and so I celebrate, and so it is. And please join in a few moments of stillness.